Texas, starring Beverly McKenzie.
Mr. Bancroft?
Well, yes.
I'm Mr. Wheeler's chauffeur, sir. He sent me to meet you and bring you to the World Building.
Mr. Wheeler sent a car for me? I don't understand. I've come to Houston to see Iris Carrington.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Wheeler instructed me to take you to see Mrs. Carrington afterwards.
Afterwards? After what?
After you see Mr. Wheeler.
But is Mrs. Carrington aware of this arrangement?
I wouldn't know, sir.
That seems rather strange.
Not from Mr. Wheeler, sir. Do you have any luggage?
No, indeed. I intend to return to Bay City this evening.
Well, in that case, we'd better get you to Mr. Wheeler's office as soon as possible. This way, Mr. Bancroft.
Thanks, Bruce.
Dawn, you don't have to see this. Let me take you home.
Home? No, I have to stay. I came to help Dennis.
Dawn? Justin? How you doing?
I'll be all right.
How about you? How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You don't have to stay here, you know.
Oh, yes, I do. I came to help, and I'm going to, even if all I do is keep track of the sales. Dennis, let me do something.
All right. Did you come to help too, Justin?
I came to deliver Dawn and get something that belongs to me.
Well, do you need help finding it?
I could find it in hell if I had to. Dad, how can you love someone so much, yet not hear them when they need you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't listening.
Hello, son. Dad! Hey, Dad, what's up? How are you?
Fine, son, fine. I just thought
It's first light here. We've been working for hours. Must be late in Houston.
yes, son, it's very late.
Listen, it's nice of you to call. The race is going to begin any minute. All I need is 3 points.
That all you need?
The world champion.
For what?
I can hardly hear you.
If you thought you might be, well, thinking of coming home. You know, help with the family, with the business.
You know that this is the life I love?
No, yeah, well, I know that, son, but
Anyhow, you don't need my help with Marshall Oil.
I'm afraid there's not going to be Marshall Oil.
Listen, Dad.
Yeah?
Glad you called. It'll bring me good luck. I've got to go.
Read the sports page. I'm going all out today. It's going to be a great day. So long. Why? Why couldn't I hear what you were trying to tell me? Maybe if I had, this wouldn't be the last voice that you ever heard. Dad, I didn't do my duty then, I know. I'm sorry. But I'll do it now. I swear. And the past? It isn't dead. It isn't even past.
Justin! Oh, glad you decided to come by after all. What's that?
My heritage. Legacy. Promissory note. An account receivable.
Where'd you get it?
I dropped Dawn off at the River Oaks house. They're auctioning all of my family's personal possessions to take care of the debt my father left behind.
It must have been so difficult walking into that house.
Yeah. House. It's not my home anymore. Everything's tagged, waiting for strangers to come and buy. I was in my dad's study.
Oh, that's
His
great.
desk was tagged. His chair was tagged. Paintings were tagged. This was tagged, too. What was I supposed to do? Let some stranger come by and buy it for a few dollars? The gun that my father used to... Do you mind if I have a drink?
No, go right ahead. I can see how you wouldn't want for that to be sold, but what are you gonna do with it?
I just keep it around for a while.
Well, now, what for? What good is that gonna do besides keep your memories alive?
That's good enough for me. I've wasted enough time trying to wait until the time was right. Rena, I'm ready.
That's right. It's time. It's time for you to stop moping around and start getting back into the real world. I mean it, Justin. If you really are interested in helping your family and yourself, the best thing you can do is concentrate on getting yourself a job. Now, that is why you're here, right? I did offer to take you to Vicky's about a job at KVIK.
I know that that's what we talked about. To tell you the truth, I did come by here this afternoon to talk about that, and I've decided I think we should just forget about it. I'm concentrating on Alex Wheeler all the time. I think about him every moment.
Justin, I'm all for revenge myself. There's no love lost between me and Alex Wheeler, believe me. But I care about you. And I hate to see you brooding. I mean, it isn't going to change anything. What if I told you my mother is very close to Alex Wheeler? I mean very close, honey. Would that make you more interested in working for her?
How close?
Pretty close, darling. Let me show you something. You are just gonna love these.
Good morning.
Oh, Iris, you're up so early.
Oh, I heard voices and I thought perhaps Brian had arrived, but I see you have company. How are you, Justin?
I'm just fine. I'm doing better all the time.
Oh, that's good. Sit down, please. Oh, dear, did I interrupt something important?
Nope, nothing. That can't be continued later on anyway. Honey, I hate to leave like this, but Justin and I were just getting ready to see Vicki.
Rena has convinced me to apply for a job at KVIK, despite the fact I have no experience in television or any other useful occupation. Wait till Vicki finds out what I can't do.
Oh, Vicky's a very sympathetic person. I know she'll consider your application very seriously.
Oh, she'll do better than that, I guarantee it. Well, Justin, you ready? And let's put that thing away in the trunk of the car.
Oh, please. Bye-bye, you two. And good luck, Justin.
Thanks.
Have a good day now, and say hello to Brian for me.
Yes. Bye-bye, now. Bye. I would like to say hello to Brian for myself.
This is Mr. Wheeler's office, Mr. Bancroft. If you'll give the young lady your name, she'll see you in, and I'll be waiting to take you to Mrs. Carrington's.
Really? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Brian Bancroft. I presume Mr. Wheeler's expecting me because he sent a car and a driver to the airport to pick me up. Does he do that kind of thing often?
Only for special guests, Mr. Bancroft. And he is most anxious to see you. Please. He asked me to show you in the moment you arrived, so if you'd come in.
Brian Bancroft? Alexander Wheeler. I can't tell you how glad I am to meet you.
Mr. Wheeler.
Alex, please. Can Terry get you something, coffee or anything?
No, thank you.
All right. Terry, would you hold all my calls for me, please?
Right.
Thank you. Nothing is more important to me than this talk.
So I gather. I'm not accustomed to being bundled into a car by a uniformed stranger and being told I have an appointment to see a man I've never met.
But we did speak on the telephone.
For a moment. But I hardly think that justifies...
Yes, well, forgive me. I was anxious to see you before you met with Iris. It just seemed more expedient. I suppose it did seem a little abrupt.
To say the least.
Yes. But I want you to understand quite clearly my position. That is, when you see Iris later, you
Mr.
can
Wheeler, Alex, you understand that I'm in Houston because Iris called me.
From this office?
Wherever she called me from, it's still Iris I've come to see. Yet since I got off the plane, I haven't seen or spoken to her. I'm talking to you, a total stranger. And you're telling me you want to make your position absolutely clear. Now, do you understand? I don't know what you're talking about. Make what position clear? What's going on here? And where is Iris?
I'm sorry, but this is important to me, too. Would you please sit down and let me explain? Look. Both of us have a deep concern for Iris's welfare.
I know that I have such an interest. But who are you? What is your interest in Iris?
I'm someone who loves her I've loved her for 25 years. We met in Europe a long time ago. I couldn't marry her then. I had nothing to offer. But now I do.
But why?
Why? Because for the last 25 years, I've done nothing but build all of this as a setting for the one perfect woman I've ever known, Iris.
Iris.
I'm a hard worker and a hard fighter, too. You don't get to the top ranks of international oil without being tough. But I want you to know that inside, I'm still the same 20-year-old kid who met Iris in Saint-Tropez and fell in love with her. And I loved her all these years. And now that I can give her the world, now that I've found her again, I've asked her to forgive me for leaving her and to let us start our lives all over again, together. And I know that she wants that. But she's hesitating, she's holding back, and I think I know why.
Well, I admire your ability to fathom Iris's mind because I have never been able to myself. Why?
The divorce. I know you're still technically married.
Well, all the papers haven't been signed yet, but we decided to go through with the divorce several months ago.
Then why don't you give it to her?
Now, just a minute.
Now, before you say anything else, I want you to know that I want most of all for Iris to be free, to be with me. And I will do almost anything to achieve that. That's why I brought you down here,
Look,
so that you
I don't know what Iris is up
Now,
to.
there's one
Now,
more
wait a minute. Just let me finish. Before you offer me some sort of threat or bribe and make me really angry, instead of being sympathetic to your predicament. Alex, there is no trouble with the divorce. In fact, I have the final decree with me in my briefcase right now.
No.
Yes.
But Iris said that...
Yes, well, it's not unusual for Iris to say whatever she feels is to her advantage, regardless of whether it's true or not.
But then Iris lied to me. Why?
For the same reason she'd lie to anyone else. Because she isn't ready to tell you the truth.
Can you find out what the truth is?
Probably.
Then when you talk about it with her, will you come back?
She's expecting me. Goodbye, Alex. It was interesting meeting you.
Then I hope I see you again soon.
And now, the next part of Texas.
Oh, Iris. Now that I've found you, I can't lose you again.
Alex, do you want the phone messages that came while you were talking to Mr. Bancroft? Or should I just come back later?
No. Go ahead, Terry.
Okay. Your nephew Ryan called. Apparently the contents of Mike's River Oaks house are being auctioned off today. And he's going by to see if who's ever handling the auction is also going to handle the sale of the house. You're interested in buying Mike Marshall's house?
Mm-hmm.
To help the family out?
Well, that's part of it. I don't want them suffering any more than necessary because of the Marshall Oil bankruptcy and Mike's death. But I would like to buy the house, yes.
It's a wonderful old place, isn't it?
You don't find houses like that in the market very often. Iris has to have a place.
Lucky lady. To be offered such a gift.
Terry, I would give her the world. But I don't know if she would accept anything at all from me right now. If Mr. Bancroft calls or comes by, will you put him through to me, please? No matter what I'm doing.
Brian. Oh, Brian, where have you been? Come in. I called the airport. They told me your plane had come in on time, but I've been waiting and waiting. The least you could have done was called me.
Well, I would have been glad to, but I was waylaid.
You were what?
Yes, a car and a driver picked me up at the airport and drove me to the World Building downtown before I even knew where I was going.
Oh, you've seen Alex then?
Yes. Is that fresh coffee?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, here, let me. And, what did you two talk about?
Sugar, please. Thank you. We talked about you. He's quite frank, isn't he?
What did he say?
Well, it was what he almost said that was so interesting. I think he was about to offer me a bribe. Although, now that I think of it, it might have been a threat. I'm not sure. To conclude the divorce proceedings as rapidly as possible.
Oh, dear. And what did you tell him, Brian?
The truth. Well, what did you expect me to say? That I was foregoing the divorce for some reason?
No, of course not. It just makes things so awkward now, though, because he knows I lied. Oh, Brian, what will he think?
Oh, Iris, why do you always ask that question afterwards? Well, I suppose it'll depend on how you explain why you lied. Why did you lie to him, Iris? What are you hiding?
What makes you think I was hiding anything?
Oh, I know you. And I think you owe me an explanation, too. Now, why did you tell Alex you were having difficulties with the divorce?
Because I am having difficulties, but with something else. And I do need your help, especially now that Alex knows I lied.
Iris, sometime in your life, you're going to have to stop lying and hiding and then asking for help. Now, why don't you just tell the man the truth, whatever it is, and damn the consequences?
Because he wouldn't understand.
Wheeler seemed intelligent enough to me.
He's also demanding and in a hurry. He can't understand my hesitating at all. He thinks 25 years can just be forgotten in a moment.
Why can't they be?
Because there is a very tangible product of those 25 years. I can't even tell you.
Oh, Iris. Iris, dear, dear baby. We've been through so much together, haven't we? Well, the passion's spent. The friendship still remains. And you know I want you to be happy.
Yeah.
So let me help you, whatever it is. Now, why don't you just be brave and say it right out?
Because I can't.
Well, then, I suppose there's no point in my staying here.
No, Brian, don't leave me. I'm desperate, and I don't have anyone else to turn to.
You could turn to Alex.
No, I can't tell him. Please help me.
I'm trying to. But so far, all I've gathered is there's something Alex doesn't know, and whatever it is, it's keeping you apart.
That's true.
Well, what is it?
It's It's Dennis.
Dennis? You mean Alex doesn't know you have a son?
No, he knows Dennis is my son. What he doesn't know is that Dennis is his son, too.
You mean Alex is really Dennis's father? All these years. Well, who else knows about this?
No one. Not a soul.
You mean Mac doesn't know?
No. I met Alex in Europe while I was in school there during a vacation on the Mediterranean. Don't let anyone tell you that a whole life can't be changed in an instant, Brian. I met Alex and fell in love for the first and probably the only time in my life. 3 days. And I gave myself to him and to loving, wholly, utterly, completely. And when he left, I discovered I was pregnant.
What did you do then?
What could I do? Elliot had been following me around Europe like a puppy dog, begging for some attention from me, so I called him. And when he asked me again to marry him, I did. And I never told Mac or Elliot or Dennis or anyone that Dennis is really Alex's son. Why should I? I never told anyone about Alex either.
And you've kept that secret all these years.
All these years.
Well, that explains a lot of things, you know.
Does it?
Why you've never been able to rest. Why you always assume the worst of others. Assume that they're hiding something too. That explains a great deal about the past.
Well, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I can't worry about the past now. It's the present and the future that are troubling me.
Well, I don't understand why you don't make it simple. Just tell them who they are to one another and hope for the best. There is a good side, you know.
Oh, of course there is. Why, if Alex and I do marry, it would be so much easier for Dennis to accept him, knowing that Alex is really his father. And then let's face it, Alex is so wealthy and powerful. Dennis's future would be assured once Alex knew he was his son. Do you think that's terrible of me to think?
No. I understand. Well, everything you've said sounds pretty good.
But I've only told you the good parts.
Well, tell me the bad ones.
Well, Dennis would find out that he wasn't who he thought he was, that his father isn't his father, that he's a bastard.
I'm sure Dennis would be upset at first, but he's sensible, Iris. He'd get over it in time.
No, he wouldn't. Oh, I take that back. He would get over it, but how mutilated inside, what sort of scars?
Well, you may be right. I just don't like subterfuge. But it may be warranted in this case. Maybe you could marry Alex and let him and Dennis gradually get to know each other. Then tell them both later, when they've grown to like each other.
If only that were possible.
Well, what's wrong with it?
Dennis and Alex haven't met.
Oh, Iris, there you go again, imagining the worst. I mean, taking steps to counterbalance something that might not even happen. Worrying about how they'll react when they haven't even met each other yet? Well, why haven't they met?
Because Dennis doesn't want to meet Alex.
Why not, Iris, if he doesn't even know the man?
Oh, Dennis is in love with, well, he cares very much for, at any rate, a girl he met here. And because she and her family blame Alex for her father's death, so does Dennis. Don't you see? Because of Don Marshall, Dennis hates Alex already. He hates his own father.
We've got a lot of things to sell this afternoon, but before we begin, let me remind you to raise your number when making a bid. Now, the first items in your catalogs is also the first of the antiques we have for sale today. Over 200 years old and still in magnificent condition, this woman's hope chest, called a bride's box of French Creole origin, brought to Texas from New Orleans. Now, we'll open the bidding at $1,500. Do I hear $1,500?
It's going very well, don't you think?
1,500.
2,000.
25.
Hey, Don.
3,000.
What's wrong?
31.
He's selling my mother's hope chest. The chest she brought with her to Houston as a bride.
Come on, let's go in here. We can get you calmed down a little bit.
4,000.
Dennis, I'm so sorry. I just couldn't help it. Oh, no.
Wait. I brought you in here for a good reason, so let's just calm down a little, all right?
I don't want to be in here, Dennis, please.
Trust me. I have something very special for you.
Everything special to me is being sold out there.
You're wrong, Dawn. What I have here is more important than anything being sold out there.
But Dennis, life is things. It's the things that you remember from when you were tiny. The bowl that was yours, the stove that was so high you'd never see the top of it. The chair your father always sat in when he came home.
Life is more than that. It's the things you remember surrounding those things. The love. That's what counts. All those things, they're just going to disappear and decay with time. But what I have here, no one can ever take away, and no one can ever tarnish either.
What's that?
I found it when I was doing the inventory for the sale. First, I didn't know what it was. But after I read the first page, I knew you should have it. Go on, take it.
What is it?
It's a journal kept by your father.
My father kept a journal? I never knew. I can't. It's private.
It was private, but it's yours now. A personal legacy from your father to you.
Why to me?
Read it. It seems you started it after your mother died. It's kind of an extended letter to her about the family, about him. The first part is all about you.
Me? But I was just a baby when my mother died.
Read it.
My darling Madeline, I'm so used to sharing my day, my thoughts with you, that I'm going to set aside some time each evening to write the most important events of the day, knowing that somehow you'll still share them with me.
Go on. The next part's about you.
Today I went to the nursery to claim the last gift you left me. Our baby. The nurse told me I'd have to name her for the birth certificate before I took her home. I couldn't think. You'd been so ill this last few months that we never did decide on a name, did we? But suddenly, I knew what to call her. And I named her Dawn. Because she was a new life. And the only light in the darkest hour of mine.
See, isn't that better than all that stuff being sold out there? Isn't it? It is, Dawn. Because all those things are just that. They're things. But this is your Father's love. And any time you feel that you need that, all you have to do is open it and read.
That's true. No one can ever take love away from you.
And the rest doesn't matter.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Excuse me, but we have to remove some items from this room. Is it all right?
Yes, it's all right.
When Alex asked me to come with him. And then when he demanded an explanation for my concern, what else could I tell him but that you wouldn't give me the divorce?
I see.
Do you really?
Yes. But it makes no difference, Iris. You still lied to him. You still haven't learned that lying just complicates things. I've told you that before, haven't I?
Yes.
But it hasn't done any good.
Oh, Brian, do you think that instead of lecturing me, you could give me some advice?
Will you take it?
Of course.
All right, then. I advise you to say yes to Alex, and then be patient. If he's the man you think he is, Dennis will come to accept him sooner or later. And when that happens, you can tell them both.
If you had seen the look on Dennis's face when I so much as mentioned Alex's name. Oh, you're too optimistic. It won't work.
You just said you'd take my advice, Iris.
Well, I didn't think it would be so unrealistic. No, I just don't think the day will ever come when Dennis will accept Alex, not as long as he's involved with Dawn.
Now, Iris, you stay out of that.
Oh, Brian, of course I will. I was just wondering what I'm going to say to either of them in the meantime.
Well, the decision is yours. But whatever you decide, you're not going to use this divorce as an excuse.
Are those the final papers?
They are. Here you are. The final decree. You sign here, and that means you accept it.
I can't do it.
Iris, you know it's for the best for both of us. Well, what's stopping you?
If I sign that, it separates me forever from Bay City, from my old life.
Only if you want it to, Iris.
I don't know what I want.
Well, I can't decide for you. But I'll tell you this. I'm flying back to Bay City tonight. So if you feel that this situation is just too difficult for you, why don't you think about coming back with me?
Stay tuned for the conclusion of Texas.
Thank you. Ah, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Is that the way you see it?
No, not really, I guess. Thing to say, isn't it? We're gonna have fun, honey.
You sure of that? It's been a long time, but I don't remember Victoria Bellman as a pushover.
Oh, she's mellow. Sweetest thing in this world.
Tell you the truth, sweetheart. I think living up there in Bay City has loosened your brain. Vicky is going to toss us both right out on our ear.
No, she's gonna greet you like the son-in-law she hoped for, ask you what you've been doing, and offer you a job on the sports staff of KVIK.
That's how it goes. Buy you lunch, maybe even dinner.
Ooh, now you're sticking your neck out. I'll collect, believe me.
I never knew you to bet on anything but a sure thing.
Bet on you once.
Nobody's perfect. You know that old saying, never was a horse that couldn't be rode, nor a rider that couldn't be throwed.
That's what they say. You about ready to find out whether you got a job or not?
Lead on, lovely. I figure to get a meal out of this either way it goes.
Join us each weekday at this time for the continuing story of Texas.